Alright, welcome back to another video with Atomic Token Games. I'm Jake Steppen.
And I'm Wade Wagner.
And today we've got a review of Scythe.
Alright guys, super stoked to talk about Scythe today. It made third place in our bracket, March Madness bracket for board games. 130 board games, we did it in 4 hours. Yeah. Go check that out on our channel as well. It was awesome.
Yeah.
In the comments, check out our Etsy shop. We've got our merch live. We've got our shirts going. Logo on the back.
We got the phone cases.
The phone case, I'd show you mine, but it's right there.
We're using it. Be sure to check out our Patreon as well. If you join our Patreon, you get access to exclusive content. We do live streams. We also have discount codes for any of the merch that we make. So be sure to check out the Patreon as well if you want to support our channel. Help us be able to bring you board game content every week.
We love it. We're having a blast.
Okay, so Scythe is a really interesting game. It's kind of got some of everything when you're playing it. So there's a little bit of worker placement. There's a little bit of engine building. It's almost like a 4X game. You've got kind of dudes on a board. You're trying to area control and conquer and score points.
It's really hard to nail down one specific genre for it because it takes so many things from so many genres, but it does them so well. It takes like the best of those.
Yeah. So basically the gist of it is in Scythe you'll choose a unique and asymmetric faction. Each one's a different color, and they'll give you certain abilities that you'll be able to use throughout the game. And then you'll choose an action board, which again are unique. So you'll mix and match your action board and faction board and create a unique combo. And then you'll get all of your miniatures. So they have these really cool they have mechs, and they have little meeple worker guys and everything. And then you have your character.
One of my favorite little flavors is that each of the factions meeple workers are different.
Yeah. And basically what you'll be doing is you'll be exploring the entire countryside here. This is set in, I don't even know,
Eastern Europe after World War I.
After World War I. It's kind of got this unique feel to it. But you'll be exploring the countryside with your workers. You'll be producing resources in order to produce more workers and get your mechs out, and you can build buildings, and you'll be unlocking extra abilities. And your whole purpose is at the end of the game is to control the most territories, have completed the most objectives. There's a whole set of objectives you can fulfill, which adds a lot to the replayability of the game, and having resources. So there's a lot of different ways you can win the game, a lot of things that contribute, but your whole purpose is to be the best country, be the best, explorer.
Yeah. The story is that there's a factory that gave, magically or whatever, gave the technology to build these mechs, and you're vying for control of the factory, and so whoever is the best faction wins. I think the cool thing about the triggering of the end of the game is that it's different. People can focus on different things. You trigger the end of the game, you have 6 stars, and every time you complete an objective, you put a star on the triumph track. When the first person puts their last star on the triumph track, the end of the game is triggered.
And there are like 12 different objectives you can fulfill to get rid of your stars, so you'll only be doing like half of them throughout the game max, and so each person can kind of pick and choose, okay, I'm going to focus on building up my technologies or exploring or gathering resources or whatever you'd like to do. Your whole purpose is to get out there, be the best at doing that thing and winning.
It's a fun game.
It is.
Okay, so we're just going to jump right into the review. First category, table space and setup. What do we think?
Yeah, I give this a 4 out of 5. I feel like the board's pretty big. You can actually buy an even bigger board, which we
have.
So the board's pretty big. Each player has their own player mat. The table space is pretty decent. The setup is also decently long. It's not the worst because once you have your boards, you just put all the pieces on it and set everything out, and you're ready to go. The setup is the same every time. There's that part of it is not the worst, but it is pretty decent. So I give this a 4 out of 5 for table space and setup.
Yeah, setup and cleanup. You gotta get the board ready, get all the different decks out, put all your pieces on the board, get your pieces out of the miniature. tray and all that stuff. Grab all the resources, get them off to the side. Coins. There's a lot of moving parts. It's not a huge barrier to entry, but it's pretty hefty. Yeah, so 4 out of 5. That's pretty good. Okay, next category, replayability.
Yeah, this is where Scythe really shines. This is for me, it's a full 5 out of 5. Super high replayability for multiple reasons. We talked in our last episode of Atomic Game Theory about variability in games, and Scythe has a lot of variability that really adds to the ability for you to replay it. The different win conditions, right? There's the 10, 12 different objectives you can complete, and you only have to do 6 to trigger the end of the game. There's the fact that there's all the different factions, plus the different action boards, and you mix and match those. Plus, you're playing against other people. There's different bonus points at the end. There's different objectives. There's a whole bunch. It's very replayable.
A lot that you can change. Yeah, I give it a full 5 out of 5 as well. The different combinations are incredible, and it makes it feel like a different game, even if you get the same faction. Having the different economy or the choices of actions really make it feel a lot different every game. And one thing I don't necessarily like about games, but I love about Scythe, is the base game. I fell in love with Scythe with just the base game. And I didn't feel like I needed, I've seen this, I need all the expansions to make this fun again. It was awesome as just the base game. But then if you do go and buy the expansions, which we bought the Invaders from Afar and the Rise of Fenris, which we haven't opened Rise of Fenris yet, but the Invaders from Afar add 2 more factions, 2 more economies, a bunch of more other objectives, and just increases the variability tenfold. It's incredible. So again, for me, I think the most important thing about replayability is variability. Feeling like you're playing a fresh new game and can take a fresh new strategy every time, and this is full 5 out of 5.
Yeah, it really does change each time you play. What your strategy has to be. Just there's so many different things. Like, oh wow, I don't have enough wood. That was me last game. I didn't have enough wood, so I couldn't build buildings. So I was like, well, I guess that's not part of my strategy this time. And also just because it is so interactive, you can battle each other and try to push each other out of the way and stuff.
Which I left you alone for way too long.
Yeah. There is an aspect of that too, like just playing with other people, they make different choices. It's not totally static, so you can change how you play. Other people influence how you play. Your faction influences how you play.
The player count makes a huge difference in the replayability. It's so different playing with 2, 3 to 7 people.
Right. Oh yeah. Plus the game gives you a record board where you can keep track of the first player to win with this faction and the first player to win with these conditions.
That's your favorite part, I think.
Yeah, I've got my name on there a couple times, so that makes it fun. You want to play, you want to get better.
Achievement unlocked is what it feels like. One of them, I don't know how we're going to do some of those. One of them is like win the game without building any mechs ever. Yeah. And some of it's pretty crazy, but it is incredible. Full 5 out of 5.
All right, so next up we have our complexity.
Complexity. This one was surprising for us. We bought it. We first were introduced to this at SaltCon. We'd heard about it forever. And we grabbed it, read the rule book, and it was like,
32 pages or whatever.
The rule book is robust, but it's very good. It's very well written. But once you get into playing the game, it is not hard. The learning curve is super high, but then after that, the gameplay is so fast. You never really feel like, not a lot of the time, the turns are such that you don't really feel like you're waiting forever for everybody's turn. Even in a 7-player game, it's like, here's the one action I'm going to do. Unless you're playing with me and I always have analysis paralysis or whatever. But yeah, for complexity, I give this a 3 out of 5 because the learning curve is really steep for a second, but it seems really steep, actually. It seems more scary than it actually is because then when you actually get to the gameplay, it's so simple.
Yep. I agree. I give this a 3 out of 5 as well. I think, there is a lot of differences, right? Each faction has its own set of abilities, but your first time playing, all you have to do is learn your own abilities and worry about yourself, and you do great. And then after that, you can start saying, oh, I played as that guy last time. I remember that. I'm going to learn this one, and you can start picking up more of them. But yeah, once you have read the rules and understand what's going on, it's a very simple game to play. The complexity is, it's pretty average, not too hard. Not the easiest game you've ever played, but definitely not crazy complex.
Yeah, we explained it to our friend last night in 20 minutes or so, maybe less, probably less than that. And then he was just able to jump right in because when you take an action, you just select an action from your economy board and then just follow it from top to bottom. That's it. And it's super, super simple, and that's your turn. And they even say in the rule book, when you get to the bottom half of your action, just let the next player start their turn, because the bottom half of their action isn't going to actually affect anybody else, really.
And they tried really hard to introduce new players. There's help cards that will say, your first 5 turns do this. And so you can say, okay, I'll try this action and this action. And there's a how to play scenario guidebook that they have.
Well, it's amazing the tools they've given you to just jump in and start playing the game. Really cool. So 3 out of 5, complexity.
Okay, next up we have strategy.
So strategy, this game, I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. Talking about this, the strategy is actually really, 4 out of 5 is not a low score, right? It's really high. The way to end the game and the way to do the best in the game is to complete one of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 objectives. So you can only do 6 of those. So there's some overlap in the strategy from player to player, and you're not going to play, each faction the same every time, but it's not a full 5 because there is some kind of overlap in the strategy, and then you're limited by what actions you can do, which actually kind of adds to the strategy because you have to plan ahead, because you can't do one action twice in a row. There's so many possibilities. I don't ever feel like, even if I did play the same faction, that I would do the same thing.
Yeah, the idea of having your worker, that you place them on your board and that's what you get to do, that can add a whole new level of strategy, because you're like, man, I want to do this. And you're like, okay, in order to do that, I first need these resources. So I'm going to have to make resources first. And then I'm going to have to move. Okay, and so you do end up, because you're limited by what actions you can take, you're like, okay, I have my next 5 turns planned out. So there's a lot you can do. But it doesn't feel overwhelming at all, because your turns are so simple. It's like, okay, I'm going to make resources this turn. Then the next turn I'm going to move. And then the next turn I'm going to whatever. And so you can kind of, and you're throwing there like, okay, and then I'll be able to also build my mechs, and I'll move this. And so it's got some really cool things, and just the variability and the replayability really adds to the strategy, because you can't just be like, all right, this is how you win, because there's not a way, just one way to win. So
I think learning it for me too is I've been learning to try to maximize every turn, because you don't always have the resources to do the top and the bottom half of your board. So you can do the top half, but a lot of the times you can't do the bottom half. But I think one thing I really tried to focus on last time was make sure that when I did one action, I could maximize being able to do the whole thing, and that just adds more to the strategy. And then when you change the economy mats, the top and bottom actions are shuffled around.
Right.
And it's just, you can't just do one play style and then have that be the one thing that you do every time, because it's going to change, especially based on what other people do. So strategy 4 out of 5.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
A lot to do. Okay, art style and theme is our next one. What do we got?
Okay. I give this game a full 5 out of 5. I think the art style and theme of this is awesome. Like everything, your player boards have some great art on it. The board has really great art. All of the objectives, there's objective cards you can get from exploring, and there's no words on it. It's just a picture. And then you interpret the picture, and then it has some options like, do you want to feed the grizzly bear or run away or whatever, right? And so there's really cool that theme in that. And I was telling Wade when we played yesterday, that this game, to me, it feels like it should be like a medieval game, almost like just kind of like the classic. You got your sword and bow and arrows, except that there's mechs, and so it's got this really cool feel of like, man, I'm like trying to explore and conquer, but like also I have giant robots to fight for me, and it's just awesome.
It feels very like early steampunk.
Yeah. Like
you have farmers working the fields and people working with their hands, but then you have these mechs walking through. The art is incredible. I wish I could show the legendary box. You have these people in like your World War I get up, right? You have people in like those Russian like winter hats and their old rifles, but then you have like these mechs walking in the background. It just feels so cool. And the resources are just, they're not fancy, right? It's oil, wood, steel, and food. And it's just and like the mechs, the way the different factions made the mechs, like they feel like it feels very like they kind of threw these together, but they were effective. And so, this looks like it was thrown together from a couple like harvester machines and then had some Gatling guns thrown on it or something. It's just so cool. And they have a story for each of the factions if you want to get that deep into it. The color scheme makes it feel very World War I rustic.
Yeah, it has a really like rustic color scheme and feel, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and
definitely a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, it's incredible. 5 out of, I have it as my phone. The Scythe box art is my phone background right now, so we love it. It's amazing. Okay, component quality. What are we doing?
I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5 for component quality. They really did really well with the components with the base game. If you get the expansions and some of the upgrades, it's a full 5 out of 5.
Absolutely.
But the base game itself, I think, is a 4 out of 5. The mechs, just each one being so unique and color coded and being full miniatures, and then you have your unique player character. Really make it super awesome. Some of the other things, like this armory building, are a little lackluster. It's a cylinder. But I mean, it's wooden. It's not cardboard. They definitely worked really hard. They did really well with all the components.
It feels like all the pieces, the workers are different from the buildings and all that stuff. It doesn't feel generic everywhere. Right. We have the upgraded resources on our board, but even the resources that come with it, like they're color coded, the shapes, the cuts are really well done. Yeah. I mean, like the hearts and the little power symbols. So yeah, it's got great components. Even though they're wooden, they do feel like they're high quality wooden figures. And 4 out of 5. We love the components. The mechs are just so sweet.
Next up, we have our fun level while we're playing the game.
So fun level, I adore this game. I have a blast with it. I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5, almost a perfect score. I think the only reason I didn't give it a perfect score is I need to just get better at it. And sometimes, like that big decisive battle, just like pretty much halted all my progress that we had the other day. But 4.5 out of 5. It is so fun to try to figure out how to maximize the economy that you have been given, how to get your guys on the board. You have that tenseness of like, oh man, I got to do this and do this, and is he going to invade me? But it's also not super devastating when somebody does like invade you and take it away. It can be. I have a group of friends one of my buddies refuses to play Scythe because he got screwed over one time and he's just like, I can't do it anymore. But I have such a fun time with this game.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. I agree. This is a super fun game. Along the lines of when you're battling and stuff, if you lose a combat, your units don't die; they just go back to your home base, which I think is a cool way to kind of mitigate the loss and yet still punish you for losing a fight, kind of thing. But yeah, I think this game's super fun. I think a reason, so even though there's a lot of thinking, and it can depending on who you're playing with, especially once you get to high player counts, you can end up sitting around waiting for your turn sometimes, and that kind of takes some of the tenseness or the anticipation out of your turn. If you're like, all right, come on, man, just move your guy,
or builds it up for
or whatever, right? Or build it up a ton. But the turns themselves aren't set up in a way that they are intentionally long. Like, it really is quick turns. Like, okay, I'm going to do this. These, I'm getting resources here, here, and here. Your turn. So it can move really fast. I think, at least in a game like this, where you're kind of doing area control and trying to strategize and build up your resources and everything can sometimes be a problem as you're sitting around forever. Or you're thinking too much and it hurts your brain, and so it's not fun. This game doesn't have that at all. It's really, really quite quick. You can really get into it, have a good time. And so I think it's a 4 out of 5.
I think the game length is perfect. Like at the end, it's this mad dash to try to get as many achievements. And last night or yesterday when we were playing, we had a new player. We were playing with 3 players, me, you, and a new player. From start to finish, from explaining the rules to the end, it was only about 2 hours, and we ate pizza in the middle of it. So the game length is like perfect because it's just long enough that you really feel like you're immersed in the world.
Things,
and then it's just short enough that like we almost packed up and reset the board and played right afterwards. It's not like sometimes those games can be really long. You're like, oh my gosh, I just want it to be over now. Just win, please. I don't care who wins anymore. This is not like that at all. It's like a nail biter to the end. So much fun. So yeah, we give it, between the two of us, average 4.25. It's awesome. All right, so here we are, the decisive time.
Our
overall score. What are we doing?
Yeah, so I'm giving this game a 10 out of 10. I love it. It's a great game. There's really nothing to complain about. I don't think it's a perfect game, but none of the imperfections dock it down for me at all. No. I think it's a great game.
There's nothing that stops you from having fun. There's nothing that takes you out of it. You feel like you're in control. Even if you lose some battles, it's still very viable. I remember the one game we played at SaltCon, I was getting dominated militarily. Oh my gosh, it was awful.
Everyone was picking
everywhere. I had like 3 territories under my control or something, but I ended up winning the game. So like it feels viable even if you're getting bullied or picked on or whatever. Gosh, I think the reason we're giving it a 10 out of 10, we don't have any complaints about it. It is probably in my top 5 games. If you had to say, hey, I'm here to play any game with you right now, which one do you want to play? Scythe would be in one of those. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely one. If you haven't yet, you should check it out.
It is pretty much, I mean, even when I see other YouTubers, Scythe is usually one of the boxes that they have up on there. It's so good. It is a great essential to have in your library. It's awesome. So we give it a 10 out of 10. Let us know if you agree.
All right, so that's it for Scythe. It's an awesome game. Definitely check it out. Play it if you haven't. Go play it again if you have played it. It's an awesome game. We love it.
Give it another shot, Colin. I'm talking to you. It is, we love it. You should definitely have it in your library. If you're looking for a really good, solid foundation for your library, this is a great one to do, even just the base game.
Yeah. Be sure, leave us a comment down below for the next game you would like us to review. We're really interested in covering what you guys want to see, trying to find some new games. Check out our Patreon. We're going to do updates talking about all the Kickstarters we're following also. Or let us know if you would like us to do a video about that. Yep. We can cover some of the new games coming out, cover some of the hot stuff. We're open to basically anything.
We really like making different kinds of videos. We had fun doing the tier list video and kind of mixing it up. And school's out soon, so we'll have some more time, throw some more videos out there. We're just excited to be making content for you guys. If there's a question we can answer for you, we'd love to do that. If you have a comment on what's Scythe for you, because Scythe is going to be one of my favorites for a while, I think.
Yep.
So remember to like and subscribe, check out our Patreon, and thanks for watching.